there are just so many nutrient depletions that are actually in the evidence. If we pull it apart, zinc came up way more often than I expected it to. It was what it's couching is, the list of side effects: nausea, indigestion, heartburn, GORD. All these side effects of different medications are well documented because they have to be. But you have to go digging a little to find the data on zinc depletion, and that if we replete the body in zinc, and this is because it's over time. You do a 6-week study, put somebody on metformin for 6 weeks, and then have a look at serum zinc levels. You don't see a huge difference. But how many people get put on metformin for 6 weeks? Quite commonly, you'd be looking at zinc, but and understanding, why is this person low in zinc? What are they're eating all the right things in their diet? They're doing the right things in terms of not grazing all the day and all that kind of thing. What's going on? And then you look at the culprit.
Hello and welcome. Mentoring with Geraldine is a bite-sized practitioner podcast for naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists, and practitioners. This podcast responds directly to your needs, the needs of the practicing natural therapist. With interviews, herbal discussions, something business and something clinical each week, you'll get the variety you need and enjoy to stay motivated in practice. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mentoring with Geraldine and the Bite Size Podcast. How are you today? We're really lucky because we've got Tracee Blythe. She's been a naturopath for the last 17 years, and she runs an incredible course for practitioners. And she's agreed to come on the podcast and have a chat to us and tell us all about what she does, about her practice and her clients, but also about this prescribing course, which she presents to pharmacists and naturopaths and nutritionists and all of us, so that we learn more about the contraindications and what goes on when we take medicines and supplements and herbs. So it's great to have you here, Tracee. Thank you very much for coming on. And please tell us a bit about yourself and what you're up to.
Thank you so much for having me, Geraldine. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to your listeners about all this stuff, because it's certainly what I have a huge passion for. I graduated a long time ago as a naturopath and have worked in health food stores, in pharmacies, in clinic. I spent a long time working for a supplement brand where in that time I did lots of different jobs as well, from a rep through to education, through to senior management. And it was during that time that I realized that practitioners across the board, a couple of things I realized. One, that practitioners across the board, there was a big disconnect between pharmacists knew lots about the drugs, us naturopaths know lots about the complementary medicines, but there's this gap, this space in the middle that we're all trying to work towards, but where it's hard to bring together. The other side of what I learned, particularly with working in clinical practice, is that the patients that come to clinical practice and will pay for consultations are very different. There's a whole nother subset of people that are looking for, in a health food store and pharmacy, for that practitioner-led advice for free. And that when there's that big gap in the market of someone sitting down going through their bloods, that there's that gap there. So after many years, about a year ago, I left the supplement company and decided to fill that gap. First of all, back into clinical practice, which is incredible. I'm having a wonderful time at a clinic here in Perth with some other naturopaths as well. There's a big team of 6, so it's lovely working with a bunch of like-minded people. But I've also developed a course, and that course is called the Co-Prescriber, and it's where at each module or each webinar once a month that then joins the course, I take one drug and I take the practitioner, whether it's a naturopath, nutritionist, a pharmacist, take that practitioner from understanding the basics about that drug. I talk about all the nutrient depletions. I talk about all the safety, contraindications and side effects, and then also the complementary medicines that will help to improve the outcome for that patient. And it's all from an evidence-based perspective. And that has been what I've been doing for the last 6 months now.
Brilliant. So when you say the drug, I assume you're meaning the group of drugs, like you're talking about statins. You're not talking about a specific drug. It's a group that are within that one. So you might be talking about PPIs or statins or whatever it is. And then we can really understand what's going on with our nutrient depletion, as we know there is with PPIs and we know there is with statins. So those were the two that popped to mind. I'm sure you've done those already in your course.
That PPIs is actually in 3 weeks' time.
PPIs is in 3 weeks' time, but not say 3 weeks' time. So PPI, what's the date of that one? Because
the date of that one is the 3rd of November.
3rd of November.
Yep.
So all Tracee's info will actually be in the show notes so that you can contact her and you can get on the list so that we can watch that in later on in the month. So because obviously we're batching today, we've got to go through a load of processes and then we get the podcast out. So, so in practice, who was your niche client? Who was it that you like to see when you're in practice? Yeah, is it the people who need all these, are taking all these drugs? Is that, part of it, having this complex caseload?
Yeah, so it's in practice who I see mostly is women I see people of any age. I actually have a few children clients, but in terms of niche, it actually has become women with hormone problems. And with that, particularly women, say 30, 35 plus. So definitely some younger women and women trying to conceive and those sorts of things. But where the complexity comes in when it comes to hormone problems, as we know, with leading into perimenopause and menopause, it's not necessarily that they've got hormone problems. Perhaps it's more they've got liver processing problems. Perhaps it's more they've got digestive problems. And then layering on that, my experience with those women is that there is blood pressure, there is cholesterol, there is other stuff that is just, sometimes doesn't even make it to the list of are you on any prescribed medications? It's on my intake form and often it's empty. And then I'll ask the question again, the answer is no. And then when we get talking about a few things, oh yeah, I take a pill for that. I just take that every day though. That's just, I don't know what it's called. And then they'll look it up and go, oh yeah, it's a statin. And it's just so background to a lot of people. They don't often think to say it, even in a consult. It has to be sometimes pried out of people.
Yeah, especially the hormonal ones. So when they're on the pill, because they've been taking it every day since they were 14, so they forget to put it on the form. Mm-hmm. I've had all sorts. I had one bloke forget to put his epileptic medication on the form. I mean, now if you haven't asked these things and you're not really into making sure you've grasped all this information, that's a huge contraindication, epileptic medication. But of course, he's been taking it since he was 4. So, and he gets checked every so often when he remembers. He'll make an appointment and he forgets it sometimes, but that seems to be okay. And it was just like this totally random, I worked with a naturopath and she forgot to take her thyroxine. She has no thyroid. And she's like, I was wondering why I was feeling down. And of course I forgot to take my thyroxine. And then he said, the people, because you've been taking something for such a long period of time, you forget it's part of your life. It's like eating dinner and drinking water or whatever it is. And you forget that, yeah, actually, that's a medication, and we need to know about that because there's huge contraindications that go with these medications.
It's true.
And it really affects how we treat them. And by really understanding the medications and the nutrient contraindications can really affect what we're prescribing nutritionally as well, doesn't it? Just with our basic foods. If they're low on zinc and we're giving them a zinc, we can also make sure they're having seeds and nuts to get the zinc as well. And that's all part of, if you've got a medication that's making it hard to uptake something, you might need to add more in food along with the digestive processes.
Definitely, because what I have uncovered, there's the ones we know quite well. I think of some of the B vitamins that we might be aware of with a number of different drugs. And then there's a number of, CoQ10 and statins is the common one. But there are just so many nutrient depletions that are actually in the evidence. If we pull it apart, zinc came up way more often than I expected it to. But then because what it's couching is, the list of side effects, nausea, indigestion, heartburn, GORD, all these side effects of different medications are well documented because they have to be. But you have to go digging a little to find the data on zinc depletion, and that if we replete the body in zinc, and this is because it's over time. You do a 6-week study, put somebody on metformin for 6 weeks, and then have a look at serum zinc levels. You don't see a huge difference. But how many people get put on metformin for 6 weeks?
Yeah.
So go talk to them after a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they're suffering with chronic digestive problems, that's when the naturopath be looking to fix it. And quite commonly you'd be looking at zinc, but and understanding, why is this person low in zinc? What are they're eating all the right things in their diet? They're doing the right things in terms of not grazing all the day and all that kind of thing. What's going on? And then you look at the culprit, and it's also, there's an entourage. There's never just one. It's always, there's always a team.
Always a team. And once some of the medications like PPIs, then they'll start on a PPI, then they move to the next one, then they move to the next one, then they move to the next one, and it's just one drug after another drug after another drug, and you can bring it all back to either the statin or the PPI most of the time. And it's like these medications have all kept increasing because of it, rather than dealing with the underlying problem. The only one I find in practice that can be a standalone medication and they're on it forever is for high blood pressure.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make anything else happen. It doesn't have these side effects of bad guts. So immediately, you put on a PPI, or immediately you put on a statin. You can just be on blood pressure tablets, and that's all you'll be on, and save your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I was going to add, is the statistics on, I've done a lot of deep diving over the last 6 months in statistics around, how I chose the drugs I'm doing. It's based on the statistics around the most commonly prescribed drugs, the most commonly taken drugs. 6 of the top 10 is actually blood pressure pills, because there are just so many. And the thing with blood pressure pills is an interesting one, in that a lot of people start with one, but then they get another added on and things. So that pathway is quite different to others. And that pathway ends up being, because it's more of a kidney thing than is liver digestion. But that the rates of in different drug groups, it's different across with where you live. So if you're a practitioner out in the country, the outer regions in the countries, you're going to see far greater use of certain medications than you will if you're an inner city practitioner, because it's just, the statistics are like 3 or 4 times that and same as if your patients are older patients. The polypharmacy, the number of people in Australia who are over 55 and taking 3 or more prescribed medications a day, that is more likely than not for your patients walking in the door.
Absolutely. Polypharmacy is huge. And getting people off medications. Obviously, we have to work with the person who's prescribed the medication. We can't take anybody off a medication, and we need to work together to replete them. And once we've repleted those basics, then we can start working with the prescriber to remove some of those medications and support the kidneys. I mean, always supporting the kidneys and the blood pressure and things like that. So this is part of your course, isn't it? This is, these monthly webinars helping us with all of these medications and the nutrient depletions and what to do. And it's amazing that nobody's thought of this before, and yet it's something that we all, there's always questions in the groups. People are always asking about research. I recently did a webinar on using research in practice, so it's something that's asked about a lot. So it's amazing that we finally have someone who's sitting down with all of these medications and going, okay, what is it we all need to know on both sides of the coin? The pharmacists, that everybody along the chain needs to know.
That's my goal, is to bring that, like I said, that gap that I saw, where on one side of the coin is the pharmacy, the other side is the complementary medicine practitioner, is bring us all together in striving for the best health for the patients. That's my, something I learned about back in health food store and pharmacy days 15, 17 years ago, all those years ago, that there were just these patients that if they were only getting their advice from the pharmacist, that my goal is that pharmacists will know how to help their patients, know their scope of practice to prescribe to a naturopath. Flip side, that the naturopath knows to raise the standards for all of us. We know that there are varying standards. All the new grads that are out, it's very different. But a lot of us from the olden days have taken different paths and different turns, that we're all raised together with this common knowledge. Because the other thing as well, the answers to all this isn't in one place. It's not like I go to one website to find the answer. To bring these together, there is an essential hub, and my goal, I've got lots of big long-term goals. One of my big long-term goals is to have a central hub for us all.
Yeah, that'd be great to have that information, so that we've all got that information in the one place. So that's incredible. So Right. Well, this is the Bite Size Podcast. So I am going to let you go and get on with your busy day. I know you've got clients to see, and I have as well. So thank you so much, Tracee, for sharing all about you and your course with us. And of course, in the show notes, everyone, there will be how to find Tracee out in the world. And she'll be sharing this as well. And we'll hope to see you again, perhaps on the podcast in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Geraldine. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast for the weekly episodes. If you'd like even more support and learning, then the Academy is for you. Here you'll find part 2 of the herbal discussions, more clinical learning, and case studies to support your clients in practice. Bye for now.